The first and most important equipment I feel you need for water trapping is a good pair of hip boots. I like the industrial type. Chest waders are fine too, but I'm in and out of the truck a lot, in and out of the boat a lot, and chest waders kind of bind you up. The next thing that I think is pretty essential is a pair of BMAC insulated gauntlets. Any type of gauntlet gloves will work, but these BMACs are kind of soft and pliable, they're well insulated, and they've got the sling to kind of wrap them over your shoulder so you don't lose them or they don't fall in the water and fill up. Things that usually happen, at least when I'm out trapping anyway. I'd like to talk a little bit about the traps I use, and they're all pretty standard. In the tape you're going to see a lot of different kind of traps, stop loss, cage traps, colony traps for rats. And I use all those types of traps in those specific situations that they need them. But basically I'm using pretty much a standard type trap for most all my sets, and for leg hold sets it's the 1.5 coil Victor. I just have a mid-chain swivel, and if I need a slide and lock on the end, I'm going to have it. Usually I just treat them just like the fox traps and wax them. A lot of times you can paint them brown too if you're working in real brownish type soil. Conibear wise, I personally paint mine flat black, any type of camouflage type color. You don't want to gloss to them. Just a light brown primer color even looks real good on your conibears. 110 size for mink and muskrat, really an effective trap on rats. Your 120s or your 2-springed 110 size is pretty good for mink too, certain situations that you may need that. Also I use the 220 size conibears for raccoon and the 330 size for beaver. As far as snares go, for beaver and coon we're going to see a couple sets. I like the 3/32 7x7 aircraft cable. 40-inch size is all you need. Hoffman locks. Of course we have deer stop law here in South Dakota, so all these have deer stops on them. And they also have the Berkshire double stake system on the end. A lot of times when you're snaring, especially in the water animals, your coon and your beaver, you're working in mud situations or loose bank, you're going to have to cross stake to make sure you don't lose that animal. As far as anchoring devices go, I like the metal stakes pretty much the best. That way you have to take them with you, but nevertheless a 30-inch metal stake's pretty handy, rebar or smooth rod. Wood stakes are handy for your conibears, also for the type of rigs that I set up at home. This is a 1.5 Victor coil snapped on top of a wood picket stake. This picket stake is wired up here. It's actually the front half of my drowning rig. There's 10 feet of 14-gauge wire on here. Of course the trap has a slide and lock on it right on the end, so the trap's going to slide down to the very bottom of the slide rig, which has an easy stake on the end. An easy stake is just a piece of 14-gauge stamped out metal that works like a cam. You take an easy stake inserter rod like this and you actually push that backside, that easy stake, down in the mud in the bottom of the creek bed or the pond or the river. Give a little tug on the wire and the easy stake turns into a cam shape like this, and it's just about impossible to get back out. It really anchors the backside of that drowner well, as these rigs will be demonstrated later. Real handy, quick. I can grab 2 of these out of my truck over the bank and I'm in business. Tie plates, pretty handy in culverts or under bridges, places where maybe you can't get an easy stake in, or any kind of stake for that matter. Good heavy drags. They're frayed. You find them along railroad grades. They're just junk metal most of the time. You can wire 2 or 3 together. They've got holes in them. If you're working with beaver, maybe 3 or more tie plates you might need to anchor that trap down or anchor the backside of that drowner. 1's usually pretty much standard practice for mink, maybe 2 for raccoon. As far as tools goes for the trapping, I think a tile spade or a shovel like this is pretty handy, especially pre-season. You've got to modify the bank a little bit or pre-dig your pocket sets. You can move a lot more dirt with one of these, save yourself a little time, plus you get more leverage with the handle on it. I'm pretty much using Yoho trowel or a small 22-inch digger like this. I can get my pocket sets in with, modify the bank. They're pretty nice to use. You may want to have a couple of them with you. Sometimes you'll drop them in the water and not be able to find them. It's usually what happens with me. Heavy hammer, similar to the type I use in the predator trapping. It's got that sod buster end on it. Modify the bank a little bit. Get them metal stakes in, the wood stakes in. I like a heavy hammer because I don't want to hit it 25 times. I want to hit it 4 times and get it in. I carry everything in a green bucket like this. Just something that I can get that equipment back over the bank down into the set area with. The last thing I've got to show is kind of an ingenious deal. It's an actual drowning rod for beaver. Works good for coon too. It's an 8-foot piece of rod It's got a special kind of a drowning lock on it that you'll see later. Number 4 trap here. You could use a number 1.5 if you're working with coon. But anyways, it goes in very fast and is a positive drowner for your beaver and coon. As far as lure goes, I'm using soap dish bottles. I'm putting a couple 4-ounce bottles of lure in here and then filling it up with fish oil or shellfish oil to use it kind of as a trailing scent. Just squirt it right out on the set. And also in the bottom of my green bucket, which I carry all my equipment in, I'm using a lot of these 35mm film canisters. I got a cotton ball in there, a predetermined amount of lure on that cotton ball. That way when I get into a set area, I've got my lure already there. I'm not monkeying around with 1-ounce bottles or 4-ounce bottles. I just grab my lure canister, place that in the pocket set, in the vicinity where I want that lure, and I'm all ready to go.